Today on the Matt Walsh Show, who exactly are the people responsible for directing air traffic in the sky? We did a deep dive into what these people are posting openly online, and what we found will probably disturb you. Also, the results of the special election in Tennessee are in. It's bad news for Republicans, even though they won. Donald Trump attacks Somali immigrants, saying they, quote, contribute nothing, and he's right. Quentin Tarantino gives his top films of the century, and he's wrong. And what happens when a driverless AI taxi cab encounters a police standoff in the middle of the highway? Well, apparently it just drives right through it. All of that today on the Matt Walsh Show. Throughout 2023 and 2024, one of the major themes that I kept emphasizing on this show was that a major disaster involving a commercial airliner was extremely likely to occur in the near future. There were simply too many close calls in the skies happening far too often, especially close to the ground, to come to any other conclusion. And many of these mistakes were the result of failures by air traffic control and the FAA, which openly began discriminating against qualified white applicants during the Obama years. So when 2025 began with a low-altitude mid-air collision at the Washington's Reagan Airport, it wasn't exactly a surprising development if you've been paying attention. The signs were all there. Everyone who was paying attention knew that a disaster like this would happen, and then it did. Now, one of the many lessons that we should draw from that mid-air collision is that when a pending catastrophe seems obvious to you, even if you're not an expert in the field, you should draw attention to it. There's a very good chance that you'll be right and the experts are wrong, as they so often are, particularly if those experts are politically motivated, which almost all of them are. When I did my monologues on the air traffic control system a couple of years ago, plenty of leftists mocked me for doing so. They said that I had no idea what I was talking about. I'm not an expert. And, well, we see how that turned out. So today we're going to talk at length about a new threat that poses a significant danger to every American who travels on a plane in this country, up to and including the President of the United States. This is a threat that, as far as I can tell, no mainstream news outlet or commentator has mentioned, but it is urgent, and federal action should be taken immediately. I'm talking about the very uncomfortable but also very apparent fact that there are quite a few unhinged leftist air traffic controllers in this country, many of whom have spent the last year or so posting on social media about their plans to sabotage the aviation industry and the United States at large. Several of these individuals are deranged, entitled, and by their own admission, dangerous, and they need to be dealt with. Before we get into specific examples, I want to briefly go back to the mid-air collision over the Potomac in January. There are many factors that contributed to this disaster, including poor flying by the Black Hawk pilot. We know that. But if you ask the White House, and if you listen to the audio transcripts between air traffic control and the two aircraft involved in the incident, it's clear that air traffic control was not entirely blameless. This is the first significant interaction between the controller and the military helicopter that would later crash into the passenger plane. If you haven't heard this, or even if you have, listen again. Here it is.
789, contact Stone Park, good day. Have a good day. American 3130, slow to final.
Slow, American 3130.
Pass 25, traffic just off the Wilson Bridge to CRJ at 1,200 feet, start from runway 33.
That has a traffic site request visual separation.
This separation proof.
This is a useful instruction. The controller is telling the pilot of the Black Hawk that a CRJ aircraft, the passenger plane, is just south of the Woodrow Bridge. And he gives its current altitude and some information about its approach. And the Black Hawk pilot acknowledges the information, saying they'll steer clear of the CRJ. But the controller doesn't seem to notice that the Black Hawk over the next 30 seconds does not, in fact, steer clear of the airliner. Instead, the two aircraft are on a collision course. It's not until an automated alarm sounds in the control tower, warning of an imminent collision, that the controller notices the issue. So listen to what he says at that very moment. Listen.
Pass 25, get the CRJ in flight. Pass 25, pass behind the CRJ.
This cloud has a aircraft in sight, request for separation.
Good separate.
American 4782 by Baton, not for visual.
American 472, Washington Star, 1 star, 32017.
Alright, this is wind. Did you see that?
Now, this time around, at a critical moment, the controller does not tell the Black Hawk helicopter where the CRJ is or what its altitude is. He doesn't say, avoid the CRJ at 10 o'clock at your same altitude or anything like that, something specific like that. Instead, he simply tells the Black Hawk pilot to avoid the CRJ. And it appears that in response to that vague instruction, the Black Hawk pilots scanned the sky for a CRJ and identified the wrong CRJ in this very crowded airspace. So, they were avoiding the wrong plane. This was obviously a critical mistake, one that the controller shares responsibility for. Although, to be clear, a small portion of the ATC's command wasn't audible in the Black Hawk because the Black Hawk keyed their radio at the same time. So, as we said, a whole combination of factors went into this. Now, after the crash, it emerged that Washington's Reagan Airport normally has a dedicated controller who focuses solely on helicopters, but at this particular moment, one controller was doing double duty, handling fixed-wing planes in addition to helicopters. In an interview with federal investigators, the controller stated, quote, "There was one point that I thought about asking for backup, but it was, as soon as I was thinking about it, I got rid of a few helicopters, so it was a little complex, but it was manageable for me." Now, I'm beginning with the crash above the Potomac because it illustrates a couple of facts that are very important to keep in mind. First of all, air traffic controllers are apparently capable of an extraordinary degree of self-deception. After all, when you allow two aircraft to fly into one another, by definition, the situation was not manageable. But more importantly, the crash illustrates that air traffic controllers, if you needed this illustrated for you, air traffic controllers have a very important job. Even with all the automation that we have, they are a critical line of defense against aviation disasters. Our lives, when you're in a plane, your life is in the hands of these people. And therefore, they should behave professionally at all times, even when they're off the clock. You shouldn't have to worry that these people are, insane or sociopathic. You're paying their salary. You put your life in their hands. And in return, at a minimum, they should demonstrate that they're not crazy. But many air traffic controllers are instead demonstrating, particularly on Reddit, one of the, of course, largest social media platforms in the world, they're demonstrating that, alas, they do not clear this very low bar. So let's back up for a second. On Reddit, which is especially popular with leftists, you'll find plenty of forums where employees of various organizations, from Panera Bread to Walmart to McDonald's, anything, they talk sort of shop about their experiences on the job. And very often, as you might imagine, the posts are extremely negative. And that's why they're there. People are airing out their grievances and making all kinds of highly inflammatory statements. And sometimes the posts are threatening or reveal signs of obvious mental illness. This is very common on Reddit in general. And all things considered, that's, probably fine when you're talking about the guy who's making your sandwich or boxing up your flat screen TV or whatever. But it's not so fine when you're talking about somebody who has the capacity to kill hundreds, if not thousands, of passengers in a matter of seconds. Air traffic controllers, unlike the delivery guy at Jimmy John's, can direct two planes to collide if they want to, or if they aren't competent enough to avoid doing so. They can order planes to perform unnecessary maneuvers that put passengers in danger, and they can certainly cause all kinds of major inconveniences that cause significant problems for the millions of people who populate airports and airplanes every day across the country. And if something like that does happen, it can be very difficult to prove that the controller did it on purpose. He has plausible deniability. He can claim he made a mistake. This is the power that air traffic controllers have, and therefore they need to be vetted. They need to be sane. And there really cannot be any question about that. And yet, if you look at various subreddits that are frequented by air traffic controllers, you'll find that, we have a pretty big problem in this regard. there are a slew of posts, all of which are really easy to find, in which air traffic controllers demonstrate that they are unfit for the job. And I'll give you just a few random examples. You can go and find many more for yourself if you want. And to be clear, most of these posts receive support from the community. So we're not just talking about one or two random trolls. We're talking about dedicated communities for this profession where they're openly talking about committing acts of sabotage on the job. They're also, in general, at least on these forums, very unhappy people who are extremely bitter about the Trump administration to a degree that is pathological. So we'll start with these comments from the ATC subreddit. These are in response to a post from Donald Trump's Truth Social account where Trump used a meme to mock government workers for being lazy. And just for the record, here's the meme. And as you can see, it shows SpongeBob with a list of things that he got done last week. And the list includes cried about Trump and made it into the office for once. Because this is the modern age and the president is posting SpongeBob memes. It is what it is. Now, needless to say, the air traffic controllers didn't find this meme to be especially amusing. So here's what they wrote. Quote, "Give the private jets a few extra circles before landing." That post has more than 100 upvotes. And then the reply comes, "Air Force One, go around, fly runway heading." And then somebody replies, "Wouldn't it be great if the president's pilot took one for the team?" And someone then replies that no, it would not be good if the president's pilot crashed Air Force One or if air traffic controllers intentionally gave bad instructions to Air Force One. And that person's post was downvoted by the community to the point that it became invisible. So to restate, in response to a meme where Trump implied that air traffic controllers are lazy, the air traffic control subreddit responded by saying that air traffic controllers should give bad instructions to Air Force One. And then for good measure, the air traffic control subreddit endorsed a post in which somebody suggests killing the president while he's on board. Now, that one comment alone is enough to make the point. I kind of stop right there. And it's easy enough to say, hey, it's the internet, it's not real life. But this is real life. A real human being in real life suggested that Air Force One should be intentionally crashed to kill the president. And real human beings reacted approvingly to that statement. And those human beings are in air traffic control. In fact, they're in air traffic control towers right now, perhaps, as we speak, directing air traffic. That's a problem. That's like a big problem. This was not a one-off. This is an entire genre of this subreddit and related subreddits. Here's another post from just 3 weeks ago that you can see, quote, "So could you guys just let Air Force One sit in a 3-hour taxi line?" It was posted in response to Trump saying that air traffic controllers should get back to work during the government shutdown because Trump dared to suggest that they shouldn't call out sick. They're threatening retaliation against Air Force One. And here's one more. This was in response to a post complaining about Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary. And it says, quote, "Whenever he flies, just delay his takeoffs and landings. Easy peasy. Ask him about the Congress members on vacation right now while he's in the air. When he answers correctly, you'll allow his plane to land." So these are just a few examples of threats directed at the president and members of his cabinet, all of which were highly upvoted by the air traffic control community on Reddit, meaning they reflect a common sentiment in the community. But there are many more concerning posts which suggest that the broader traveling public is also in danger. Here's one of them. This was posted just a few days ago. Quote, "If a candidate starts talking about healing or letting Trump administration officials go, I'm intentionally voting to keep this administration in office to speed run the whole collapse. I cannot abide not arresting and punishing these corrupt Fs to the maximum extent of law. I would rather they just destroy everything than see these dorks walk away scot-free for the 15th time in a row. Seeing Levitt, Noam, Hegseth, all these people do perp walks, that's the real healing this country needs." Now, again, this is a popular post in the online community of air traffic controllers. You have someone clearly unhinged talking about speed running the collapse of the country. He would rather destroy everything, in his words, than live in a world where Donald Trump and his cabinet aren't sent to prison. And you could say, well, you got free speech in this country. You can say that if you want, and you can. I mean, legally, you could say that. You just have to ask yourself, you're in the air. If you knew for a fact while you were in the air and you're in a plane that's landing, if you knew for a fact that the guy who wants to see the United States collapse and be destroyed because he hates Trump so much, if you knew that that was the guy who was directing your plane to land, how would you feel about that? Is that the guy you would want? If you could choose, would you choose that guy? I know I wouldn't. Now, of course, if this guy had said he voted for Donald Trump, his comment would be downvoted into oblivion, if not censored entirely. But because he's talking about destroying the U.S., he gets the exact opposite response among air traffic controllers. He gets upvotes. No moderator bans him or removes the post because this is what they believe. These are people who shouldn't be allowed to, probably make a sandwich, but they're directing planes full of innocent passengers every single day. Now, before we get into more of these posts, I should clarify why these people claim to be upset. Obviously, they're, deranged and their posts are incoherent, so there's no logic there. But there was no universe in which they'd support Donald Trump or accept the fact that he's the president without frothing at the mouth. But if you ask them, one of their biggest grievances is that the Trump administration just gave $10,000 to every controller who didn't take a single day off during the government shutdown. But in the end, only a few hundred controllers received the bonus because the vast majority of them took pre-planned leave or a sick day or something like that. Now, if these government employees were well-adjusted individuals instead of extremely unpleasant and entitled lunatics with the emotional maturity of small children, this wouldn't bother them in the slightest. I mean, the handout is a bonus. It's compensation that they had no reason to expect in the first place. It's a thank you to the rare government employees who managed to go a month, yes, an entire month, without pretending to be sick or taking vacation. In the government world, that's an extraordinary achievement. You came to work every day for a month. Wow. It's almost unheard of among government workers. And so the ones who did that, they got a nice little bonus. But air traffic controllers aren't willing to let this go. They're demanding that everybody gets the $10,000 bonus. And on top of that, like angsty teenagers, they're also vowing to get their revenge on the administration and on the air traveling public. For example, here's one post about a plan to berate Sean Duffy. How much trouble would I get in if I saw Duffy on official time and I told him, F you, we all hate you? This post also has dozens and dozens of upvotes. But the funny thing is, if you read all the replies, everyone is basically saying, go for it. You're not going to suffer any consequences whatsoever. How much trouble will you be in? None. So here's one post to give you an idea. It says, quote, at Jacksonville Air Traffic Control, they'll pick good staffing days to put you on suspension, but then you'll work overtime and basically get more than your original salary anyways. One controller got a week on the beach for talking trash to pilots, while another got a week on the beach for stealing thousands in overtime before being caught. We live in a clown world. So in other words, you can behave extremely unprofessionally as a controller and actually come out ahead of where you were before. You can harass your boss in public and you'll suffer no consequences whatsoever. This is the culture among government employees who direct planes for a living. I mean, it's the culture among really all government employees, including these ones. They openly celebrate the most adolescent, inane behavior imaginable, and they do it because they know they'll get away with it. There will be no consequence. So they're taking full advantage of the opportunity. And after all, when you have adolescent, inane people in important jobs, they can't resist punishing innocent people as a way of satisfying their narcissism. And that's why, at the moment, some of the most popular posts on this subreddit involve threats of walking off the job in January when the next government funding bill is going to be debated. Here's just one of those posts of the very many. Quote, not feeling so well in January, wrote one user in response to a melodramatic post accusing the Trump administration of a $10,000 betrayal. So here's a government worker announcing that he's going to take fraudulent sick days, defrauding the taxpayer and potentially endangering the public because he didn't get an extra $10,000 check that he was never entitled to receive in the first place. And there are about 1,000 posts like this. It's very common. Here's another one with nearly 100 upvotes in which a controller responds to a post by Trump on Truth Social by saying he's going to take more sick days to infuriate Trump. Quote, if I knew I was personally in the thoughts of that dipshit, I would have banged more. Meaning more sick days, I think, is what he's talking about, banging. You want to bang sick days? Maybe that's air traffic controller lingo. I don't know. Then there's this very popular post from a couple of weeks ago. It's in response to the news that an air traffic controller had recently committed suicide. It says, quote, between the shutdown snap and firing the feds, Trump has killed a lot of Americans. And one of the most popular responses to that post was this, quote, Trump killed 250,000 during COVID too. Now, to put this in context, that's just kind of standard lefty talking points there. But to put this in context, remember when we learned that the FBI agents were texting one another about how to stop Donald Trump from winning the 2016 election? They were doing that in private because they knew it'd be a national scandal if anyone found out about it. And then indeed, when people did find out, the agents were terminated. It was a scandal. Congress had hearings. Ultimately, the FBI was gutted from the top down. And that's what really needs to happen to air traffic control in this country. Gut it, privatize it, bring in some accountability. We've talked about this in the past. Air traffic control can be privatized. It is in many countries. Hire people who aren't deranged. Anything would be an improvement over the current arrangement. And we have to act quickly here, because if you look deeper in this forum, you'll find that in various posts, certain agitators appear to be encouraging posters to take more drastic action. Here's one example. Quote, there's a difference in staying silent and doing something. The fact you think you and most people here are doing something more than commenting and hoping it will change is what is most bothersome. It's like Paul Revere yelling from the window about the midnight ride. Look at history, see what actions have actually caused change, and there's your blueprint. I think it's pretty black and white. When you guys are trying to reinvent the wheel, I'll never understand. In a separate post, this same person writes, quote, the fact that you think a strike is the only way to get what you want just proves that you won't ever get anything. And then when somebody points out that he's being conspicuously vague about his proposed solution, he responds with this, quote, there's nothing vague about it. Your inability to comprehend the issue and subsequently the solution isn't because of a lack of clarification on my part. Now, again, all that is vague. You could say, well, he's talking about protesting or something. And in the context of a subreddit where air traffic controllers are openly planning to berate the Secretary of Transportation, crash Air Force One, and skip work in January, this kind of post it's more than a little ominous. And there's an awful lot of posts like this on these forums. And it's very reminiscent of the mysterious guy with ties to foreign intelligence agencies who kept talking to Thomas Crooks on YouTube and encouraged him to go to war, right, before he ultimately shot Donald Trump in the head in Butler. It was the same kind of thing. Oh, you're just talking. Like, when are you going to do something? Same sort of thing. Now, the entire ATC subreddit is a cesspool, but it's also a cesspool that the federal government should be paying attention to. And that said, there was one good sign that I came across in this entire forum. One post was moderately reassuring, and it's a post that suggests that Secret Service is aware of threats that controllers may pose to the president. Here's what it says, quote, the one time President Biden came to my airport, a Secret Service guy showed up 30 minutes to 1 hour ahead of time, basically monitored you control Air Force One. In this case, it was actually Marine One. And we sterilized our airspace. So if anything, it makes our workload easier so we don't have to do anything else except clear them to land and had zero other aircraft to worry about. Now, that's one level of defense against these people, which is obviously a very necessary precaution. You could put an agent in the tower, make sure they don't kamikaze a plane into Air Force One. But the Trump administration should go much further. I mean, there's more than enough reason at this point to investigate the people posting these comments and threats and deranged statements on the air traffic control forum, start a federal investigation and subpoena Reddit for the IP addresses of anyone who's pledged to commit a crime, including calling in sick fraudulently. That's a crime. Or targeting Air Force One. You simply cannot allow government employees to openly plot acts of terrorism or any federal crime. But that's the state of air traffic control in this country, and it's been that way for some time. 2 years ago, for example, the New York Times reported that air traffic controllers were routinely showing up to work while drunk or high. Quote, one air traffic controller went into work drunk this summer and joked about making big money buzzed. Another routinely smoked marijuana during breaks. A third employee threatened violence and then aggressively pushed a colleague who was directing airplanes. In the past 2 years, air traffic controllers and others have submitted hundreds of complaints to a Federal Aviation Administration hotline describing issues like dangerous staffing shortages, mental health problems, and deteriorating buildings, some infested by bugs and black mold. There were at least 7 reports of controllers sleeping when they were on duty and 5 about employees working while under the influence of alcohol or drugs. In the fiscal year that ended September 30th, there were 503 air traffic control lapses that the FAA preliminarily categorized as significant, 65% more than in the prior year. So this has been going on for a while. And to be clear, most of these controllers were not fired. That's how it works in government jobs. Another reason why we should privatize. That's how low the standards are. And that's how powerful the union is. You can come to work drunk as an air traffic controller and you might not even be fired. When in reality, of course, you should be fired and then put in prison for a long time. Now, you could debate whether or not these controllers are overworked or underpaid. Privatizing the entire system would address all these issues and allow the market to correct for them. But, the controllers don't want that either because there'd be more accountability and they don't want that. But really, the question of whether these controllers are overworked isn't relevant. The most relevant question is whether we're hiring good people who are mentally competent. And based on what I found, there's very good reason to suspect that we're not doing that, or at least we are failing to do that a significant number of times. Now, Reddit, as we've discussed so many times, is a breeding ground for domestic terrorism. And in this case, the threat couldn't be any more apparent or more urgent. When Americans board a plane, they should have some assurance that the person guiding that plane doesn't hate the country or, want to see the country collapse or want to murder hundreds of people to spite Donald Trump. Sean Duffy and the Trump administration at large need to provide that assurance. And they need to do it quickly before any of these air traffic controllers manage to act out their fantasies and hurt a lot of innocent Americans in the process. Now let's get to our 5 headlines. This episode is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Back in the 90s, when the internet first started to take off, it was sold as this free space with no corporate control or government interference, just you exploring whatever you wanted. But look where we are now. Companies and social media can curate your entire feed to influence what you think and even how you vote. Your device isn't really yours anymore, but there's a way to take back some of that control. ExpressVPN. Every time you go online, your internet provider is tracking everything you do. But ExpressVPN changes that. That's why I use it all the time. And as someone who spends hours researching for each show, I rely on ExpressVPN constantly. All my traffic gets routed through encrypted servers, so no one can see what I'm doing, not even my ISP. It also hides your IP address, that unique number that companies use to identify and target you. Without it, they can't build a profile or manipulate what you see. Best part? Super simple, one click, and you're protected on all your devices, laptops, phones, tablets, even your smart TV. And right now, you can get up to 4 extra months if you go to expressvpn.com/Walsh. That's expressvpn.com/Walsh for an extra 4 months. So here's the update from our show yesterday. Fox News: Republicans will hold on to a GOP-controlled vacant congressional seat in Ruby Red, Tennessee, after winning a hotly contested special election that grabbed plenty of national attention. Republican nominee Matt Van Epps on Tuesday defeated Democratic rival Afton Bain, according to the Associated Press, in the high-stakes race to succeed former GOP Representative Mark Green. Van Epps said in a statement, this race was bigger than just one campaign. It represented a defining moment for Tennessee and for the direction of the country. President Donald Trump carried the 7th congressional district by 22 points in last year's presidential election, and Green won it by 20 points in 2022 and 2024. And it looks like this was Van Epps just won by about a 9-point victory, a little bit less than 9 points. So Afton Bain, the lunatic feminist who openly hates the city that she wants to represent, wants to burn down police stations, loves to kill babies. She lost, lost by 9 points, which is a comfortable victory, to be sure. We wouldn't say that he squeaked out a win. Like Van Epps didn't exactly. It wasn't exactly a nail biter, but 9 points is not a landslide. 9 points is, as we just saw there, is less than half of Trump's margin of victory in the same district, right, a year ago. It's less than half of Mike Green's victory in the same district last year. So, when you look at it objectively, if this district went to Republicans by 20 plus points recently, which it did, then it should have gone Republican by like 40 points yesterday. Okay, that's looking at it objectively. That's what should have happened. When you consider who this woman is, I mean, this is a far left extremist. Even by modern Democrat standards, this is far left. Far to the left on every issue. She is like 2020 levels of woke in 2025. And on top of that, she's viscerally unappealing. I mean, she's shrill, tedious, annoying, hates the city, hates most of the people in the city. Right? I mean, she wants to represent the city, not just the city, but she wants to represent Nashville. And she's on the record saying, I hate this city. I hate it. And she basically checks every box for the sort of person that the voters in Tennessee don't want. She's like, if you created the perfect candidate in a laboratory and then took that candidate to a different laboratory and said, make the opposite of this candidate, then that's what they would create. And yet she did like 13 points better than Kamala Harris, who's also a terrible candidate. She did 11 points better than the last Democrat to run for Congress here. So that's a bad sign for Republicans. That statement from Matt Van Epp saying this is a statement victory. This is a sign of things to come. I think he meant that in a good way, but he's right, but in the opposite way. Like it is a statement. It's a bad statement. Now, it's not going to be seen as any kind of catastrophe for Republicans because a Republican won, but I think it is kind of catastrophic. I mean, it's like, imagine that you ran for Congress against a deer tick. It's like if you ran for Congress against a tapeworm and won by 9 points. Okay, how would that make you feel? How much would you be able to celebrate the victory? Okay, you run for Congress against head lice and you get a single-digit victory. That's like the most demoralizing kind of victory imaginable. Okay, you ran for your opponent was a giant pile of cow dung, and the cow dung won 41% of the vote. Right? That 42%. I mean, that's what we're talking about. So, Republicans have big problems, and in some ways that was inevitable. I mean, this is the pattern, right? The party in power gets annihilated in the midterms. We've seen this happen time and time again. We've grown accustomed to this pattern. It's expected, but it shouldn't be this way. It hasn't always been this way. It doesn't have to be this way. This is the way it is now because Congress is full of unserious people who don't even try to solve the problems that Americans actually face. They don't really even try to do anything to improve the lives of American citizens, which is their whole job, right? And so the voters just vacillate wildly between the two, from disappointment to disappointment. That's what ends up happening. And so that's the real statement here. Pure Talk has been a loyal sponsor of my show for a long time now. They've had a history of making great offers, but they have really outdone themselves this time and are offering their top tier plan for over 50% off. Normally $65 a month, Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and data with a 30 gig hotspot for just $29.95 a month. And that price is locked in for life. Can't think of a better deal than that, but this offer is extremely short-lived. So make the switch today. Go to puretalk.com/Walsh for Pure Talk's top tier unlimited plan for just $29.95 a month for life. The switch will take as little as 10 minutes, and you can keep your phone and phone number so you have nothing to lose by acting now. Again, that's puretalk.com/Walsh to switch to my wireless company, Pure Talk. Taxes and fees not included. Some restrictions apply. See puretalk.com for detail. Offer ends December 7th, 2025. All right, moving on. Donald Trump yesterday had quite a few things to say about Somalians in America, an issue that obviously we've been following closely, talking about quite a lot. And Trump is now clued into it, and this is what he had to say on the topic. Listen.
And they contribute nothing. The welfare is like 88%. They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too. I can say it about other countries, too. We don't want them to hell. We have to rebuild our country. You know, our country's at a tipping point. We could go bad. We're at a tipping point. I don't know if people mind me saying that, but I'm saying it. We could go one way or the other, and we're going to go the wrong way if we keep taking in garbage into our country. Ilhan Omar is garbage. She's garbage. Her friends are garbage. These aren't people that work. These aren't people that say, let's go, come on, let's make this place great. These are people that do nothing but complain. They complain. And from where they came from, they got nothing. You know, they came from paradise, and they said, this isn't paradise. But when they come from hell, and they complain, and do nothing but bitch, we don't want them in our country. Let them go back to where they came from and fix it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Mr. President, has Maduro offered to leave?
You know, I got to say, I agree with Trump on a lot of stuff, but watching that clip, it was a little too far. That was really offensive to the people of Somalia. Really uncharitable. Got to call it like I see it. I think it was uncharitable, and I think it was offensive. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, that was great. I couldn't agree more. Well said. Very well put. Lays out the case. Somalis don't really contribute anything. Majority of them are on welfare. They scam us. They defraud us. I mean, that's all a fact. Like that's what's happening. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. That's what's happening. And they don't even say thank you. So why do we have them here? What do we get out of it? What's the benefit to America? That's the question Trump is asking. And you'll notice that lots of people will be very angry at Trump for saying this. Lots of people are angry, but none of them, okay, no one will actually dispute the point. Okay, he made a pretty stark claim. He said, and it's a claim that we've made on this show a million times. He claims that Somalians contribute nothing. I mean, that is quite a thing to say about a whole group of people. Right? It is. And it's the kind of thing that if it weren't true, then his critics will be rushing in to disprove it. If that was like an absurd thing to say, if it was just absurd bigotry, then his critics would be saying, what are you talking about? They don't contribute anything. Here, you know, it's like if someone said, and this is the kind of thing that the left-wing race hustlers will try to say on occasion. If someone said, white people of European descent have contributed nothing to this country. If somebody said that, my first response, your first response would not be to say, oh, that's offensive, that's unkind, that's uncharitable. No, our response would be, what? Wait, you moron. Here's a list of 5,000 things that whites of European descent have contributed to America, okay? Here's a list of 5,000. You need more because I can give it to you. And that would be the response, right? Nobody is doing that with Somalians. Have you noticed that? No one is saying, what are you talking about? I can list a million things that Somalians have contributed. What are you, crazy? This is nothing but ridiculous bigotry, anti-Somali bigotry. Here's a list. Here, I'll tell you exactly what. No one's doing that. Because if you say that, then the response is going to be, oh, really? You can list them? Go ahead. Oh, you actually want me to provide the list of Somalian contributions? Sure. Okay, well, I mean, first there was you literally wouldn't, it'd be a list that is, with nothing on it, okay? And it's a list, just a giant blank space would be the list of Somalian contributions. And that's just the fact. Because mass migration from Somalia it has nothing to do with their contributions. They're not really here to contribute to us. We brought them here so we could contribute to them, which is how immigration has been approached for many years in this country. It's totally backwards. It's flipped on its head. But that's what we've been doing. And it's not that we don't want to help people, right? We're a generous country. We're a Christian country. We like to help people. We will always help people. I believe in helping people. But charity should be done through the free choice of individuals. That's the thing. It's not charity. Like, by definition, it's not charity unless it is a choice to do it. And people would, if you get a GoFundMe together to donate to the people of Somalia, in Somalia, to help feed them or whatever, if you got a church group together to go do that, if you organized a charity effort, Americans would contribute in droves, and they have. How many millions of dollars have Americans, Christians in particular, contributed by choice to impoverished places in Africa, for example? Who knows? It's a lot of money. And people will contribute. Now, I probably won't, because I like to help people who are closer to home. I'd rather help someone struggling in America than somebody in Somalia. You can't help everybody. So you got to make your choice. And I think I like to focus on people closer to home. But that's me. That's my choice. The point is that Americans as a whole are very charitable. Like, easily the most charitable people who've ever lived on the planet. It's not even close. Okay, Americans, there is no competition here. It's really only the predominantly and historically white countries that have any interest in extending really any charity towards people who live on the other side of the globe from them. They're really not doing that in Asia or Africa or South America. Even the people in those parts of the world who have the means to do it aren't really doing that. Not to the extent that we do, not even close. So the point is, we are charitable. We like to help people. But the help should be done by choice. Charity is not charity unless it is chosen. When you're forced to do it, when you do it at gunpoint, that's not charity, that's theft. That's extortion. All right, that's a ransom demand. And the even more important point is that, and this is the thing that I think everyone needs to pay close attention to, although most people listening to the show will already know this, but citizenship is not charity. Okay, citizenship is not a soup kitchen. Citizenship is not a charity drive. Citizenship in America is not an entitlement. Citizenship is not a welfare program. Okay, we should not be granting people American citizenship as a form of charity. That we should not be doing. And it really is that simple. You can help people all you want through your own choice, not at gunpoint, not because your money is taken from you by the federal government and given to other countries across the globe. That's not what it should be. But through your own choice, you can help whoever you want. And most Americans will. But we should not be granting citizenship as a way of, well, just help them out. That's not what citizenship is. And I think it really is that simple. Are you looking for a gift that actually stands the test of time? With our show sponsor, Policy Genius, you can give your family the gift of security and peace of mind with life insurance. Policy Genius makes finding life insurance simple, helping you secure real coverage so your loved ones have the financial safety net they need when it matters most. Policy Genius is a simple online marketplace where you can compare quotes from all the major insurers in one place completely free. They got a team of licensed experts who will walk you through everything, answer your questions, deal with all the paperwork, and help you figure out what coverage actually makes sense for you without all the confusing insurance jargon. The whole point is to find you the most affordable policy that actually fits your situation. And based on thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot, they're clearly very good at it. With Policy Genius, real users have gotten 20-year, $2 million policies for just $53 a month. Don't wait until next year. Give your family the gift of security today with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/Walsh to compare life insurance quotes from top companies. See how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/Walsh. All right. Fox 9 in Minnesota reports Minnesota's new paid family and medical leave law, which allows up to 20 weeks of leave and paid benefits, will take effect starting January 1st of this coming year. You can take paid leave to care for yourself during serious health conditions like surgery, injury, chronic condition, pregnancy, and childbirth, and other health needs certified by your provider. Your family leave, for family leave, it covers bonding with a child through birth, adoption, or foster placement, caring for a family member with a serious health issue, supporting a military family member called for active duty, responding to a safety issue, including domestic violence, sexual assault, or stalking for you or a family member. The law will provide up to 20 weeks of paid leave per year for eligible employees, including 12 weeks of personal medical leave and 12 weeks of family leave, both capped at 20 weeks total. Here is, so that's the law that's going into effect in less than a month. Here's creepy Minnesota Governor Tim Walz talking about it.
And one of the things is that has been missing in America is what happens if you have a child? How do you take time away and how do you bond with that child, which we know all the research shows how big a difference that makes? Or what happens if you've got a family member that's sick? My family's going through that right now with a mother-in-law. Or what happens if you yourself have an illness and have to be either through treatments or hospitalized? The choice in the past was lose your job or go broke or care for yourself. Or as we were just saying, if you're lucky enough to have family support and people who do that, it's not the way things should be done. And I continue to say this, United States is about one of 3 or 4 countries that doesn't have some type of program like this. Now we join the states that are going to implement a paid family medical leave program.
Okay, so this law is, like I said, about to take effect, and 20 weeks of paid leave per year mandated by the government. And we're told that it's all good because it'll be paid for with a very small little 1% hike on the income tax, I think is what they're talking about, or 0.5%, and on the part of the employee, and the employer is supposed to cover the other 0.5%. And now we know that isn't true. The cost will be much higher because that's how these things always go. But in any case, the upfront cost is not even the point. The point is twofold. First of all, Minnesota, I mean, the timing here is just great because Minnesota, as we've been discussing and is now a national story, Minnesota has a massive fraud problem. And we know that, billions of dollars, huge scandal. And all they've done here is create yet another avenue for billions of dollars worth of fraud to be committed, which is what's going to happen. I mean, this law is going to be exploited and defrauded into oblivion by people, many of whom will not be American citizens. So if you like fraud in Minnesota, if you're a big fan of it, congratulations, you're about to get a whole lot more. You're about to get a whole lot. If you like your fraud, you can keep your fraud, and you can get a lot more because that's what's going to happen. And then also second and related, and this is important for anyone who, and you hear even conservatives sometimes that support these kinds of things because it's supposed to be populist, and sometimes when you hear conservatives say we need to compromise on some of the economic issues and all that, like this is the kind of thing they're talking about. But it's a terrible idea. Okay, this is going to destroy businesses in the state. If I was a business owner in Minnesota, I would close up shop and relocate immediately. I would have no choice. Now, if you're Walmart, if you're a big conglomerate, then you can absorb the hit. Still a significant hit, but you could probably absorb it. But it's probably worth staying in the state, having some locations there, and just taking the hit. You might lose more just by leaving the state. But if you're not the size of Walmart, then this will kill you. This is death. Okay, this is a law that requires you to pay employees to not work for 20 weeks per year. Okay, that's 5 months. That's more than a third of the year. And the reason for someone taking their 20 weeks, the reasons that are allowed are so vague and so broad and so unprovable that everybody will do it. And it's at a certain point where you're almost a sucker if you don't do it. Everyone else is. And what? You could get 20 weeks off paid and your job is guaranteed to you when you get it back. So you have to pay them to not work. You have to hire someone else to replace them for almost half the year for 20 weeks. And then you have to give them their job back. And then guess what? 6 months later, they can leave again for 20 weeks. And you have to pay them again. And this is now a legal right. So you can't question it. If you're an employer, you can't stop it. You could have an employee who takes 20 weeks off a year, every year, and you can't do anything about it. You have to pay them. It's obviously total lunacy. I mean, this is, first of all, to think that this will not be exploited into oblivion is to reveal that you have like no understanding of human nature at all. Your understanding of human nature is I mean, you must not be human yourself, that your understanding of human nature is that diluted. It's human nature that you give people this option, many will take it. And the more who take the option, the problem compounds. It's an exponential problem. Because the more people doing it, then other people who otherwise maybe wouldn't do it are saying, well, I mean, geez, if everyone else in my office is taking 20 weeks off a year, here I am, the only idiot still showing up every day. I might as well do it too. And then it very quickly becomes it's just not sustainable. You can't do this. There's just realities of life. And you've got all these people, leftists, but not just leftists, who have an understanding of life of like a child. They have a child's understanding of life. And so they say, well, why shouldn't we be able to take 20 weeks off a year? Well, because you can't, because like it's not a job, your employer can't function that way. It's not possible. Yeah, but I want to. Well, you might want to, but you just can't. It doesn't work that way. It can't work that way. It's reality. You understand? There's facts of reality. This is one of them. If you're going to do 20 weeks, why 20 weeks? Why not 40? Why not 52? Why not just mandate that people can take off for as long as they want? You know, someone could take off for 5 years if they want. Why not? You know, 5 years to whatever, get their mental health in order. Take 5 years as a mental health break. Why not mandate that? I mean, if we're in this fantasy world where money doesn't exist and reality is suspended and, you know, companies can just like stay open and pay everyone to not work and like nothing matters and it's all fake. Like, if that's the world we're in, then why not just mandate paid indefinite leave for everyone in the state? Right? Then everyone gets paid to not work and no one has to work and it's a utopia. Why not? And of course, I'm saying this because it's to me, it's obviously absurd. I'm trying to make a point. There are plenty of people who will hear me say that and unironically will say, well, yeah, why not? We should do that. It's like actual adults in this country, a lot of them, who actually think that it should be an option for just no one to ever do any work ever again. And they don't understand that it's like life requires work. There's no such thing as living without it. There's a disconnect. When you prioritize your health, you're investing in your ability to show up fully, think clearly, and stay resilient through whatever life throws your way. Take charge of your health with our sponsor, Armra Colostrum. Armra Colostrum taps into nature's original superfood packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that strengthen your gut and boost your immune system from the inside out. Unlike probiotics that only address one piece of the puzzle, colostrum strengthens your entire gut wall system, easing bloating and supporting healthy digestion. The result is a stronger immune system, healthier metabolism, and noticeable improvements in your hair and skin. It's a secret elite athletes have relied on for years to boost performance and speed up recovery. We've worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armra.com/Walsh or enter Walsh to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's armra.com/Walsh. All right, Variety reports Quentin Tarantino has named Ridley Scott's Black Hawk Down the best movie of the 21st century, saying Scott's feat of direction is beyond extraordinary. There's a lot of conversation on social media about this. Quentin Tarantino has listed his top 20. I think he did his top 20, but this article has his top 10 movies of the century. So I guess that would be since 2000, or if he started from 2001. So the rest of his list: number 2, Toy Story 3. Number 3, Lost in Translation. Number 4, Dunkirk. Number 5, There Will Be Blood. Number 6, Zodiac. Number 7, Unstoppable, Tony Scott. Number 8, Mad Max Fury Road. Number 9, Shaun of the Dead. Number 10, Woody Allen's Midnight in Paris. That's Quentin Tarantino's top 10 list of the century. Now, I like Tarantino films. I like him as a film critic also. I think he's obviously very knowledgeable and insightful on the subject. And I've listened to probably every Tarantino film review that I could find on YouTube. He has interesting things to say about movies, as you would expect. But I have to say, this list is a mess. I mean, this list is a bit of an atrocity. I don't know. I think Tarantino maybe was overthinking a bit here. That's my guess. Got up in his own head, ended up listing Toy Story 3 as the second best film of the century. I don't know if he was confused or having a stroke or something while he said that. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. I'm trying to be charitable. Toy Story 3 does not belong on the list. Mad Max Fury Road does not belong on the list. Mad Max Fury Road is one of the most overrated films maybe ever. I mean, it was good. I liked it. It's a good movie. It's entertaining. It's not a great film. Toy Story 3, not a great film. It's a good movie as far as kids' movies go. Not any sort of monumental artistic achievement. Unstoppable was a fun movie. That's the one. Isn't that the one with? That's the one with Denzel Washington and who's the other guy? And it's on a train that's that's the brakes don't work and it's barreling through the. It's a fun movie, but it's not a great film. It's like a good B tier action film. It's a good B action film. Not even the best B action movie of the century. I think that was I'd give that to probably Taken. I would say is the best B action movie of the century. Shaun of the Dead that he lists is really good, but Hot Fuzz was better. It's not even the best Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright movie. I think Hot Fuzz is better. Most of the other films don't belong on the list. So let me correct the record. I've thought about this for 90 seconds, and I'm probably going to regret my own list. But of course, you see a list like this, you have to come up with your own. So if I were to go 10 through 1, best movies of the century, I would say number 10. I think you need I think you need a pure comedy on the list. Shaun of the Dead was a comedy, but it's also a zombie movie, and it works as a zombie movie, which was Tarantino's point about it. That's why it's a really good movie, is that it works as a zombie movie and a comedy, which is true. So just like a pure comedy, there were a lot of good ones between 2001 and 2012. And then after that, there were none. But so I'd probably say there's 10 that you could put at number 10 on the list if you're picking a comedy. I'd probably say Borat, I think to me was the funniest, certainly one of the most iconic, certainly. 9, I would put Zodiac, which he has on his list. 8, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Criminally underrated, criminally underseen. Probably because it's 19 hours long. It is very artsy. It's a very kind of artsy Western movie, which I usually am not a big fan of, but it is a great film. Tremendous performances by Casey Affleck and Brad Pitt. Beautifully shot film. Every shot in the movie is like a painting. A great film. 7, I think I'd put Whiplash, which is the best movie about ambition that maybe has ever been made, for my money. And it's so great that you could not like jazz music, like me. I don't like jazz music. And you could also not really care about drumming, which I don't, and yet be totally absorbed by this film about a jazz drummer. So that's 7. 6, I put Sicario, which is one of the greatest thrillers ever made, unflinching, brutal. And it's an action movie with a female protagonist who is actually a female protagonist. One of the few action films with a female protagonist that's any good, and where the female protagonist is a female. There's no scene where she is single-handedly kicking the asses of a bunch of, brawny, huge men that are 3 times her size. That does not happen. She's overmatched and overpowered through the entire movie because she's a woman. So it's very realistic in that way. But Emily Blunt is the actress, and I think she does a great job. So that's number 6. 5, I'd say Children of Men, prophetic. I think the greatest pro-life film of all time. I think the people involved in the movie have denied that it was a pro-life film, but it is a pro-life film. It just is. I mean, it's all about the sanctity of life, the hope that a new birth represents, the humanity of the unborn. I mean, the movie doesn't work unless you accept that unborn life is life, and sacred. The movie doesn't work unless you accept that as a premise going in. Number 4, Apocalypto, I would say a perfect movie. It's one of those movies you watch and there's not a single frame of it that you would change. I think Apocalypto is what a lot of people think Mad Max Fury Road is, in that it's like this propulsive movie. It never slows down. It keeps moving. You're on the edge of your seat the entire time. Fury Road is that way. Apocalypto is that way. But I think Apocalypto is just a better film all around. 3, I'd put There Will Be blood. I think he had There Will Be blood at number 3, so he was right about that. Number 2, Master and Commander. I'm shocked and appalled that film didn't make Tarantino's list at all. It is another perfect movie. I've sung its praises many times. I did a whole video about it. You should watch it. We'll watch the video and then watch the movie. And then number 1 is No Country for Old Men. That I don't know how that didn't make Tarantino's list. I don't even think it made his top 20, but it's for my money, it's probably my favorite movie of all time. It certainly is top 3 of the century, if not of all time. All right, finally, quickly, a Waymo self-driving taxi drove right through a police standoff in LA over the weekend, and someone was in a different car, I guess, filming this and watching it happen. Here it is.
Waymo. Oh my God. Oh my God. What the f is that Waymo doing?
So it goes right through the police station. It's kind of amazing to me that a Waymo in Los Angeles is not specially programmed to avoid police standoffs. I mean, that's like having a Waymo in Pennsylvania that doesn't know how to avoid hitting deer or something. I mean, it's a very common hazard on the roads of Los Angeles, police standoffs. So you'd think that they'd have that programmed in. And this is what I've been saying about driverless cars and AI and all that. This is our future, and we have to put a stop to it. Now, granted, I'll admit, because you could point out that, because a lot of people are looking at this video and they're making this point that this is the problem when you have a driverless car and there's no human there, and they can't identify things like police standoffs. Well, true, I'll also admit that taxis and Ubers driven by actual human foreigners often behave in reckless and erratic ways also. Like that also. I mean, I was in an Uber recently, and the guy almost entered the exit ramp onto a highway. We were going onto the highway, and he almost went onto the exit ramp. And I don't know if it's because he couldn't read English or because he was drunk or he was distracted on his phone the whole time. Just like on his Bluetooth, just like I can't understand it because he's speaking another language, but he appears to be having a totally aimless conversation with someone, like a conversation where he says 2 words every 3 minutes. And I'm listening to his side of it. And again, I don't know what he's saying, but I'm like, what is the other person saying? I mean, this other person apparently has this running monologue that went for the entire 18-minute car ride. And the guy that was driving my car said like 2 whole words during the whole conversation. But anyway, I don't know if that's why, but, he was about to turn onto it. And I had to say, oh, that's an exit ramp. Yeah, we're going to die. But excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt your conversation. Yeah, we're going to die. Yeah. I don't mean to interrupt. It's obviously an important conversation, but we are going to die right here. So that's the thing. That's the thing about it, is we're going to die. And so he swerved back the other way. And no apology, by the way. No acknowledgement. Nothing. And didn't even end his conversation. So you know, and I still tipped him. That's the crazy thing. That's how white I am. Like, it was awful service. We almost died. I tipped him 18%. The next time I went on Uber and it reminds you to do the tip, oh, you forgot to tip Abdul. And I still tipped, but I did 18%. I didn't do 20. So I knocked 2% off. That's the 2% near-death fee. So if he had actually killed me, then that would have been at most a 10% tip. As I was burning to death in the car wreck, I would have pulled out my phone and I would have angrily tipped only 10% and hoped that he saw it before he died too. So anyway, what was the point? Well, the point was that you know, all of that happened with a human driver. But you know what? You know what? If I'm going to be killed in a taxi or an Uber, I would rather be killed because my Pakistani driver named Saeed Muhammad or whatever drove straight into oncoming traffic. I would prefer that over a soulless robot self-driving car malfunctioning and I die alone in this empty robot car. I mean, I'd prefer neither scenario, just to be clear. I don't like either one. I find them both to be frankly disagreeable, but at least the former is human, okay? And we got to hold on to that. We have to hold on to our humanity. That's what I'm saying. And because, look, in all seriousness, the self-driving cars will be, and probably already are, safer. Like, if you're joining the anti-AI ranks with me, then we've got to be honest that it will win the safety contest. AI in general will win the safety contest. It will win the efficiency contest. It will win the affordability contest. It will win the maximizing profits contest. It will win all of that. It will. But we should still reject it because it loses the human contest. That's what it loses. So AI might prove to be better at everything in the end, except one thing, which is being human. And the thing we have to decide in the end is whether that matters to us or not. Either being human matters to us, either humanity matters at a fundamental level, or it just doesn't. And that's what I take from that video. And we will wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Talk to you tomorrow. Have a great day. Godspeed.
All of this is an illusion, an echo of a voice that has died. And soon that echo will cease.
They say that Merlin is mad. They say he was a king in David, the son of a princess of lost Atlantis. They say the future and the past are known to him, that the fire and the wind tell him their secrets, that the magic of the hill folk and druids come forth at his easy command. They say he slew hundreds, do you hear? That the world burned and trembled at his wrath.
The Merlin died long before you and I were born.
Merlin Emrys has returned to the land of the living.
Vortigern is gone. Rome is gone. The Saxon is here.
Saxon Hengist has assembled the greatest war host ever seen in the Island of the Mighty. And before the summer is through, he means to take the throne. And he will have it. If we are too busy squabbling amongst ourselves to take up arms against him, here is your hope. A king will arise to hold all Britain in his hand. A high king who will be the wonder of the world.
You. To a future of peace.
There'll be no peace in these lands till we are all dust.
Men of the Island of the Mighty, you stand together. You stand as Britons. You stand as one.
Great darkness is falling upon this land. These brothers are our only hope to stand against it.
Not our only hope.
They say Merlin slew 70 men with his own hands. At Cathay, he slew 500.
No man is capable of such a thing.
The mortal man.